Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the Daily Market Insight for Wednesday, the 9th of August. All right, now, pretty quiet week, okay, as we wait for the Thursday's US CPI numbers. But as I mentioned yesterday, we had Chinese data out, and the numbers, well, they sort of did impact, right? And I was sort of saying this because the Chinese trade balance numbers are so big, they do have the potential to impact because you can get significant variance. In this case, the actual number came out 10 billion more, which is great, but imports down and exports down as well, right? So weak numbers overall. And that sets us up for a potential opportunity today. Once you see that the Chinese numbers are in play, well, the next ones are up in the firing line, and we do have the inflation numbers today. So for those traders in the Australasian session, if you're looking to trade Aussie Kiwi, you're going to have a potential bit of extra momentum from the Chinese inflation numbers today. Now, just before I sort of go into the charts and stuff, there's a couple of extra things here as well, right? Dollar up a bit. Moody's have downgraded some of the regional lenders in the US, right? So their credit rating sort of slightly downgraded those. Excuse me. What that means is it's going to put pressure on them to lend further. And that has a sort of snowballing effect across the banking sector. I mean, a lot of these regional banks are cross-owned by a lot of the bigger banks, right? So where they have these small ones, they can be a little bit looser with their lending policies. And anyway, so Moody's have caught up with them, and the regional banking stocks were down a few percent. That's going to put a little bit of pressure on things. I'll tell you what, if inflation numbers came out higher on Thursday in the US, that's going to put more pressure on that whole banking sector. There was also another thing out there too. The Italian government has come out and just put on a 40% tax on profits on some of the big lenders in Italy, right? Now that's caused a whole heap of trouble. Those banking stocks are down, obviously. And they're the government's come out and said, you know what, we're putting this tax on you because you've made so much money out of higher interest rates. We want some of the money back. Man, I mean, I think a lot of governments would like to do that. The banks, I'm no friend, I'm no sort of, sit behind the banks because they're doing such a great job. They are there to make as much money as they can. So anyway, that's an interesting one that could have a snowball effect through Europe. But the key thing here is just watch out for this Chinese data as we go forward, right? So if you're looking at the global markets, right, not a huge amount of activity. And you'd expect that leading into like a big number like the US CPI numbers, where it has ramifications for the Federal Reserve sort of future interest rate policy. At the moment, you've got a bit of a risk-off profile. US equity futures down a touch, and that's having a bit of a clear impact on the majors. You've got a risk-off profile there. Euro sterling Aussie Kiwi drifting down, and the bulk of the US dollar pairs going up. All right, so that's something to look at. Now, just on that, if I come across here to the charts, no major changes, but since we do have the Chinese numbers coming out, thought it might be wise for us to have a quick look at what's going on here in the Aussie and Kiwi. Right, actually, let me just come over to the daily chart first. So you can have a look, see what the general trend is. Now, these things have been drifting lower, but you can see over the last a few quarters, it has sort of stalled, and we are at a critical level here, critical support level. Well, in actual fact, it has actually drifted through those levels. I don't think, and you see this on the euro and sterling as well. Now, and dollar Swiss, I mean, everything's primed, and it's all built up around the pressure that the US CPI numbers are going to unhinge on Thursday. Now, so some of these things have broken down slightly. So when we're looking at them, yeah, it's great, but the market will not sort of go hard aggressively at these things until we get the US CPI numbers, right? That's when everything explodes. So we're built up for that move. We're just going to wait an extra sort of full day. So what does that mean for the Aussie and Kiwi? Well, if you're looking at these instruments now, if I come back over to the hourly charts, you can see that the charts are, they are still drifting lower, Aussie and Kiwi, right? So if we get weak CPI numbers out of China, Well, you should expect these things to take a little bit of a run to the downside. Now, I'm not really big into massive conspiracy theories, but the Chinese data, I mean, there was always sort of rumors and things going around like for years that the data was sort of leaked. Anyway, the Aussie sort of picked itself up off the floor here, and so is the Kiwi somewhat. I don't know if that means the Chinese numbers are going to be strong, but you want to sort of keep that in mind as we go forward. If anything, the Chinese data could provide us with a short-term trading opportunity. You know, the main event for this week is obviously the US CPI numbers. So don't get, even if you get a trade on here, don't fall in love with it, because it's not going to last that long before we get these, the RAM, bam, thank you, ma'am. So I was trying to get my pen. US inflation numbers, right? So that's the key of the whole week. So today, Chinese numbers for sure. Very little coming out of the US and Europe for that matter. And that's pretty much all we've got, guys. It's not much more you can do about that. With the Aussie and Kiwi, of course, come back in. Don't just look at the dollar. Come back and have a look through the rest of the Aussie crosses and the Kiwi crosses. Okay, you might find a diamond in the rough there where Aussie or Kiwi are really sort of, pushed one side or the other. And that's, if you do your homework, you'll generally find something well worth trading instead of just hitting the general majors, right? So anyway, that's my $2 worth. Have a good trade day. There's not much more to be doing, right? The key to a week like this, where you've got a massive release on Thursday, is to stay out of trouble, right? Do simple better. Good luck. All the best. Cheerio.